Hello and welcome. So today it is all about discussing fragrances that have been launched recently and that they all seem to have like the same scent profile. There's been so many new releases this year that I'm finding that there's quite the number of fragrances that are giving us the same, scent or very similar scent as that of a fragrance that you may already have in your collection. So today I have 8 different groupings. These are like 8 different categories, and I have a name for each so we can have some fun with that. And what I'm going to be sharing with you is if you're looking for this, then maybe you should buy this fragrance, or if you're looking for that, then maybe you should buy that fragrance and not this one. So this is not a video about bashing a brand or, talking negatively about a specific scent. It's just me giving you very objective details about each fragrance to assist in your ability to make a well-rounded decision. So that's what we're about today. So let's go ahead and jump right in because we have 8 groupings, as I said before, and it's not like I'm just talking about 2 fragrances per grouping. I think there's only one grouping that has 2 fragrances, but most of them have 3, 4, and at times even 5. So let's jump right into it. But before we do so, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos multiple times a week, and on this channel, we love to talk about all types of fragrances. So if that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, so before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that in case you see like some skin peeling or something like that, it's not that my skin is dry naturally. It's just that I had a peel done, like one of those face treatments that's a peel with acid. So of course, I am shedding skin. And while I've tried to cover it up with makeup and make sure that it doesn't show, well, I don't think that I was very successful. So just letting you know in case you see some dry skin here and there. But I know you're here for the juice, but just in case you were wondering. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first category that we're covering today is all about the bright cherry fragrances. That is what I'm calling them. Yes, we are starting with cherry because cherry, the note of cherry seems to be very popular, not just amongst our fam, but in general, it's like really the note of cherry is very popular. And we have seen so many fragrances being launched, and I would say the last 5 years, all around the note of cherry. Last year, we had quite the number of them, and this year we have even more cherry fragrances. So I'm going to be sharing with you now cherries that I consider to be bright, okay? And in this category, we're going to be talking about the 7 Virtues Cherry Ambition. And of course, we're going to talk about Tom Ford Electric Cherry. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Love Fest Burning Cherry from Kayali. So one thing that I forgot to mention in the opening is that I will be covering some of these fragrances because I've received so many questions time and time again asking me, how does this one compare to that one or that one compared to this one, okay? So we are going to start with this first grouping, which is the bright cherries. So let's have this discussion. So when it comes to these 3 fragrances, I can tell you that there are differences. This is not all the same cherry. While the cherry is bright in all of these fragrances and there are differences in performance, there's also difference in the note composition for sure, which of course will result in a different scent. While you're still going to have that bright cherry, the scent will not be the same. Now, these 3 fragrances are not new. I think this is one of the oldest Kayalis. This has been around for a while. Cherry Ambition, I think, was launched last year. And of course, you guys know Electric Cherry. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 years ago that it was launched. But This has got to be one of the most requested comparisons. So I also want you to know that I'm not going to be reviewing these fragrances in detail today because I've already done reviews here on the channel. Today, it is really all about just having a good conversation and comparing, talking to you about these fragrances. Which one should you buy versus which one you should not, depending on your preferences, depending on what you're looking for. So when it comes to these three fragrances, I can tell you that specific to Cherry Ambition is a fragrance that is definitely very cherry centric, but it also comes across as a gourmand. Not a full on gourmand. You're not going to smell like a specific dish, but it is gourmandish. There is a certain degree of yumminess to it because it does have the note of marshmallow. But the thing about this fragrance is that while it is centered around the cherry, there are quite the number of spicy notes like saffron and pink pepper. And those spicy notes give that bright cherry kind of a twist. The cherry here is not synthetic at all. To my nose and on paper and on my skin, it does come across as a sweet, fruity, juicy, ripe cherry that you will absolutely love. But this is not a fragrance that I would say has a lot of depth. This is a fragrance that for me personally is perfect for when you shower in the evening and you're just going to call it a day and you just want to relax, but you want to smell like a cherry. This is perfect. This is a very easy pull fragrance for casual occasions. When I'm looking for more of a robust cherry, this is not the fragrance that I would pull. This is also a fragrance that I think is very well suited for just about any age, while the others that I'm going to talk about in a minute, that may not necessarily be the case. But that is what I find with Cherry Ambition. So now let's talk about Tom Ford's Electric Cherry. So for me, Electric Cherry is a fragrance that is definitely centered around the note of cherry. But when I initially picked it up, because it was a blind buy, and I do enjoy this fragrance and I've had it from the moment it was launched. But the thing about this cherry is that this cherry, while being bright, it is also always in the company of a very present note of ginger. That is the thing about this cherry. So I do know that quite the number of fam members have reported that they find this cherry to come across as a bit synthetic, but that is not what I get. What I do get is a very natural, sweet, juicy, bright cherry that has no darkness to it. This is not a dark and deep and dense kind of cherry. Oh no. This is a bright and, kind of like very bright with a pep in your step kind of scent cherry. But the thing is that it does pair all of the time with the note of ginger. All throughout the olfactory journey, you are clearly going to pick up on the ginger, which is always in the presence of the cherry. Now, in addition to that, this is also a fragrance that, while it's supposed to have a floral presence, I don't pick up much on a floral presence. All I get here on paper, on skin, to my nose, is just that bright cherry with that ginger. And at that, the fragrance is ambery. Not very ambery, but it is definitely an ambery fragrance. Needless to say, all of the fragrances that I'm covering with you today are perfect for the fall season and even for the winter. All right, so now next, let's move to Love Fest Burning Cherry from Kayali. Now, this is a fragrance that brings a totally different angle to this bright cherry, because while you have in Tom Ford's, Electric Cherry, like I said, you have the cherry and the ginger, and then in the Seven Virtues, you have that marshmallow. Here, it is a combination of florals, which there's quite the number of florals here. You have that cherry, which is bright. You have some spicy notes. It is ambery. It is woody. You have just everything going on with this cherry. So here, you are going to get quite the complex cherry. And while I have received many reports that this is not really about the cherry, but it is. In my opinion, this is all about the cherry. The fragrance at the dry down is not very sweet, which makes it differ from the other two, because the other two, especially the Cherry Ambition one, that one is very sweet at the dry down, followed by the Tom Ford, and then you have this one. The thing about Love Fest Burning Cherry is that, again, It brings to the table at the dry down those spicy notes, and those florals play a key role. Because if I recall correctly, you have here some heliotrope, which by the way makes the dry down a bit powdery. I don't get a lot of powderiness, but it is a powdery dry down. You have some jasmine, and there's other florals here. So, and you are going to get that floral presence at the dry down for sure, right along with those spicy notes. And the fragrance is ambery. This, to me, of the three that I've discussed with you, is the most ambery of all. So if you're looking for an ambery cherry scent that brings that floral presence to it while still being very much, in my opinion, perfect for the fall season and perfect to transition you into the winter, then look no further. The only one thing about this fragrance is the performance, but I must say that although I hear quite the rumblings around the performance of this fragrance, it does give me, on my skin, it does give me 7 hours for sure. I don't have a problem with that, but it does not exceed the 7-hour mark, no matter how much I spray or what I do, or how much I moisturize or how much I layer. No, this is a fragrance that gives me 7 hours tops. Now at that, I can't also complain about the performance because the other two perform right around that mark. Actually, Cherry Ambition gives me maybe 6 hours and Tom Ford gives me no more than 7, just like this one. And with Tom Ford, I do overspray for sure. So all in all, that is the difference between these three fragrances. So if you're looking for a cherry that is a bright cherry with that marshmallow gourmandish kind of vibe, honestly, Cherry Ambition is a great fragrance for you and quite affordable from Seven Virtues. If you're looking for that cherry fragrance that is going to bring that ginger aspect to it, then of course I would say that Tom Ford is the one for you. And then last but not least, as I just discussed, if you're looking for a more complex bright cherry, then Love Fest Burning Cherry from Kayali is the one for you. So let us know if you own any of those three fragrances. If you agree, how do you feel about them? If you own a couple of them, how do they compare? How do you use them? Have you really enjoyed them through time? Because those three are not really new. All right, so the next category here, we're going to be taking a look at 4 cherry fragrances because I had to cover the bright cherries, but now I have to talk about several new releases within the cherry fragrance category. And I've decided to name this category the dark cherries because here you are going to find fragrances where the cherry has more depth and where the cherry is rather dark, or the cherry has been paired with notes that are not very common, giving that cherry scent a completely different spin. So here we're going to be talking about Lorenzo Pizzaglia's Cherry Ink. And then we are also going to talk about Rouge Smoking Extrait from BDK. And of course, we're going to be covering Cherry Smoke from Tom Ford. And last but not least, one of the recent releases from Kajal, which is Ruby. And we are going to go ahead and compare these 4 fragrances, not necessarily to say that one is better than the other. Again, I'm just going to give you the information about each to help you make a decision. If you're in the market for a dark cherry, a couple of these are brand new releases, very recent releases, and a couple of the others are not. But one thing that they do have in common is that to me, they're so similar in the scent profile itself because it is that dark, dense cherry scent. All right, so let's go ahead and start with Rouge Smoking the Extrait. Now, this is a fragrance that does center around the note of cherry, but at that, well, before I even get into that, let me make sure, because I do know so many fam members do struggle with this. So this is a fragrance that has ambroxan. So for those of you that are sensitive to the note of ambroxan, this one is not for you. So this is a fragrance that, again, does center around the note of cherry, but this cherry is a bit different because it does come across as a dark, boozy cherry. At that, you also have the note of oud and you have patchouli here. But do not be afraid because the oud here is really not the main character. You are going to pick up on the oud. The oud is like a level 2 where 5 is the most and 1 is the least. you're going to get a very smooth level 2 that some of you may not even pick up on the oud. I pick up on the oud because I was looking for the oud. If not, maybe even I would not have picked up on the oud. But this is a fragrance that is very ambery, and it does have a very present tonka note. It has a certain degree of nuttiness to it. It is boozy, as I said before. It's not excessively boozy, but it is boozy, and it is also sweet. So this is a fragrance that will give you quite the olfactory journey. It is an extrait. It does perform very well. Actually, I have no concerns with the performance of any of these four. Maybe the Tom Ford, but we'll talk more about it in a minute. But this is that kind of cherry, a cherry that will give you quite a bit of depth. And at that, it is a bit dense, which is why it is in this category. It's not super dense, but it is perfection for like the fall and winter season. And you could, of course, open spring with it also. All right, so now let's go straight into Tom Ford's Cherry Smoke. Now, this to me is one of my favorite cherry scents. This is not the fragrance of all of my cherries, because the cherries that I'm sharing with you today are not my only cherry fragrances. Cherry Smoke for me is a very complex olfactory journey. The note composition is also quite complex. There's the note of olive, if I recall correctly. I really don't pick up on the olive. What I pick up on is a dark, juicy, very realistic cherry that at the dry down is not as realistic as in the opening. And that's because at the dry down, you are literally, like the name says it, going to get a smoky cherry. That is really what you're going to get from this fragrance. If you're not into smoky quality fragrances, this is not for you for sure, because this is truly a dark and dense cherry that has a smoky quality to it. At that, in this fragrance, you're also going to have the note of leather. The leather is present, but it's very, very smooth. So it really doesn't play a critical role. But are you going to pick up on it? You're definitely going to pick up on it. So here you do have that dark cherry that at the dry down is smoky. You have that touch of leather. And you have a fragrance that does have a certain degree of sweetness to it, but not very much. And again, the opening will give you one cherry, and at the dry down, you're going to get a kind of different cherry. All right, so now let's talk about Lorenzo Pizzaglia's Cherry Ink. This to me, I'm going to tell you right now, is a polarizing type of fragrance. This is a fragrance for someone who is a cherry note lover, but who's looking for something different. You want a complete spin. You want like a shakeup in the cherry scent category. You're tired of the same cherry. You're tired of the sweet cherry. You're tired of the realistic cherry, and you want a spin into that cherry-centric fragrance. Well, look no further. This is it. Because this fragrance, as the name says it, at the dry down, what you are going to get is like a realistic, juicy, dark cherry that has been combined with ink. It's almost like if you took the ink out of a pen, and you like drizzled it over a very like dark and juicy and ripe cherry, and you just have that scent. That is what you're going to get at the dry down. In addition to that, this fragrance has quite the number of notes. It has some citrusy notes, it has some spicy notes, it has some woody notes. There is oud here. You are going to get a bit of booziness with the fragrance. Also, it's not very boozy, but it is a tad boozy. You're going to pick up on it. So it is a fragrance that I definitely say this is not a safe blind buy. If you're interested because you're finding this very interesting, like cherry ink, well, I really love this fragrance, but I am telling you, you need to try it first on skin before deciding if you want to pick it up or not. This is not a safe blind buy, but definitely an awesomely created fragrance by Lorenzo Pizzaglia. Let us know if you tried Cherry Ink or do you own it, and how do you feel about it? All right, so the next fragrance that I want to discuss with you is from Kajal, and this one is Ruby. Now, let's just take a moment because I just find these bottles so beautiful, and Ruby is no exception. So Ruby is a cherry-centric fragrance where, to me, there's like a combination of, it's not just about the cherry, because here's the thing. This fragrance has pineapple, and I am telling you that I'm picking up on other fruity notes. I really think that this is more of a berries and pineapple and cherry kind of scent. That's really what I get, all the way from the opening, all the way to the dry down, and throughout the wear of the fragrance. To me, this is not just about the note of cherry whatsoever, because the pineapple, especially in the opening, comes through and clear. If you're familiar with Kajal fragrances, you may agree that most of their fragrances do have that pineapple note very present, especially when it comes to this collection, which is known as like the feminine collection. Well, I have to tell you, even though most of these fragrances that come in this type of bottle do lean to the feminine side, I have to tell you that that note of pineapple has become like the signature scent that you can expect from these fragrances. At least I do. And here it is no exception. And it has been paired very nicely with the cherry. Don't get me wrong. The cherry here is very realistic. I don't find it synthetic in any kind of way. I think that, you know, some may feel that the cherry here is a bit synthetic, but what they're really picking up is on the combination of that pineapple note, which is very present, in addition to that cherry. That is what they're getting. But the cherry here, if you really focus on the cherry itself, the cherry here, while dark and dense, it is a cherry that is quite realistic. The other thing about this fragrance is that it is a bit gourmandish, but to me, this is really not a full-on gourmand. It does have some gourmand notes. If I recall correctly, there's like ice cream here, and then there's whipped cream, and then there's the tonka that brings that caramelly effect combined with the vanilla. Yes, but that is not really the center of the fragrance, not even at dry down. To me, again, it is all about those fruity notes where you have the cherry in the lead, followed by the pineapple, and then you have like a collection of berries. I pick it up clearly. And the fragrance is definitely ambery, so it is perfect for the fall and winter season. But this is a spin, yet again, that's why it's in this category, to that note of cherry. So all in all, these 4 fragrances will all bring a different experience. And let us know if you've tried any of these fragrances. How are you feeling about them? Do you find what I've described to be what you're finding in it? Is that your experience? Which one is your favorite, and which one did not work for you, and why? All right, so next we're going to cover a category which I have decided to call the roses with attitude. Now, these are 3 rose fragrances that all have their own character, but the thing in common, the underlying commonality that they have is that they all have attitude. But let's talk about it. So here we're going to be discussing Matière Première Radical Rose, and we're also going to be discussing Christian Louboutin's Fétiche La Rose. And last but not least, we're going to be covering Rosa Moseniga Elixir from The Merchant of Venice. Now, these 3 fragrances, they are quite different, but again, they have some serious attitude. The statement that they're trying to make is, we are not your regular rose. Do not put us in the category of yet another rose fragrance, because we are not. We are bold, we are in your face type rose. So let's talk about it in more detail. So when it comes to Radical Rose, this is your edgy, no nonsense, in your face rose. This is truly, as the name says it, a very radical rose fragrance. Here you are going to pick up on that note of rose, you are going to pick up on some spicy notes, and you are going to get a present patchouli that has been done very nicely, but it is definitely there and not to be messed around with. The patchouli at times wants to compete with that rose note, but that rose note is not having it. This rose is not a freshly bloomed rose either. It is not jammy whatsoever, but it is a rose that bloomed several days ago and is now living her best life. This fragrance, when you wear it, gives like that unapologetic vibe, like, yes, I'm Rose, hear me roar. That's really what you're going to get with this fragrance. So if you're looking for an edgy rose fragrance that does not fit the mold of your regular rose scent, then Radical Rose may be one you want to consider. But let's talk about the others. All right, so now let's follow with Fetiche La Rose from Christian Louboutin. Now, Fetiche La Rose to me is your quintessential sexy rose fragrance. But here's the thing about this fragrance. There are two notes that play a critical role in the scent of this fragrance. First, you have the note of ginger, which I pick up on immediately, coupled with that rose. And then there is a dark black cherry here. It's like, to me, it's just like a dark cherry that is very, very intense. It is very, very ripe. It is to the point of like syrupy, like almost jammy. It's not the rose, it's the cherry. But combined with the rose makes for a very, very sexy and alluring kind of scent. This is a sexy beast for sure. So if you're looking for a rose scent with quite a bit of attitude, that is also very sexy, it is dark and sexy, then Fetiche La Rose is a fragrance you may want to try. All right, so next let's talk about one of my favorite rose fragrances right now, and this is Rosa Moceniga Elixir. And this is from the Merchant of Venice. This is, if I recall correctly, because there's been so many new releases, I think that this was a 2025. I did pick this one up, and I'm pretty sure it was now this year. But I have to tell you, this is the flanker to the original Rosa Moceniga. Now, Rosa Moceniga is a fragrance that I do also own, but from the moment the elixir came into my life, I have to tell you, I am in love with this rose. But let's talk about this rose because, again, this is a rose with quite a bit of attitude. First and foremost, here, if I recall correctly, you have like 3 or 4 different types of rose. You have some fruity notes. You have a bit of a citrusy quality in the opening, which gives the fragrance a bit of airiness. For a moment, it will confuse you into thinking that this is a full-on spring scent, but it's not. While I find the original Rosa Moceniga to be more about that spring season, walking you through the summer and into the fall, this one to me is so in your face and bold and different and with all that attitude and character and oomph that to me, this is more of like, I am going to bring you into the fall. Let's go through the winter and let's open the spring, because this rose is no joke. This one, much like in the others, is not a freshly bloomed rose. This is a rose that bloomed several days ago. It borders a little bit on jammy at times in the olfactory journey, but at the dry down, you're not going to get a jammy rose. You are going to get a full-on bloom rose that does not smell like a freshly just bloomed rose. It does smell like a true bloomed rose while not having that dated scent and while not being jammy. This is a fragrance that also has quite a bit of character because it does have a backdrop of woody notes and it is a musk-based fragrance. But the musk here is not the leading factor whatsoever because this is all about the rose. This is the type of fragrance that you can only enjoy if you are a true rose fragrances lover. If you are not sure if you're into roses or not, don't even bother with this one because this is really all about the rose. And at that, it's a very bold, unapologetic rose combination. So all in all, these 3 fragrances, while all being centered around that note of rose, they do bring something different to the table. And I'm just curious, have you tried any of these fragrances? How do you feel about how I've described each? Do you feel that those are the differences, the discerning differences, between these 3 fragrances? I have so been looking forward to having this next discussion with you. So this next category, I am calling the I'm Your Best Friend vanillas. These are 4 vanilla fragrances, and with the exception of one, no, actually all 4 were launched during 2025. And I was just wondering, we had one launch after the other from these 4 different brands, and I've just been wondering, and there's more coming, but I was just wondering, why are we getting all these vanillas that will all fill like the same space in your collection if you're not careful? They do have minor differences. Again, the scent is not the same, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is that the scent profiles are very similar. So here we're going to talk about La Vie est Belle Vanille Nude, and we are going to talk about Mancera Explicit Vanilla, and we are going to talk about Donna Karan Cashmere and Vanilla Essence. And of course, last but not least, we're going to talk about Libre Vanilla Couture. All right, so let me just start by saying, and this is truly just my opinion. I mean, do whatever you want, wear whatever you want, when you want, and how you want. That's our motto, right? But in my opinion, you really don't need all four in your collection unless you are a serious vanilla lover and you want all of the vanilla fragrances and you're ready to appreciate the nuances of each, right? Because there are differences, which is why I have them all. But of course, I also review fragrances. So, I have the fragrances for you so that I can speak to them. But these four fragrances, if you're looking for just that easy reach, easy to pull, good for any occasion, pretty much all year round vanilla fragrances, these are fragrances that any of them will fill or take that spot in your collection without a problem. But let's go ahead and start with Mancera's Explicit Vanilla. So this one was released in 2025, as I said before. And the thing about the scent of this fragrance is really incredible. And like in the style of all Mancera fragrances, it performs incredibly because it does border on Beast on my skin and on paper. The thing about this fragrance is that it is very, very intense. It's not just about that vanilla. This is not a boring vanilla scent. No, this brings dark chocolate and oud to the table. And they are both very present, but curiously enough, the vanilla will always be the star of the fragrance. The vanilla does not take a second, like a backseat at any moment to those two notes that are quite present, to the point of almost, at times I wondered, are they going to become the star? Are they going to replace the vanilla? Because those are two very, very intense notes that are present here. All right, so now let's take a look at Donna Karan Cashmere and Vanilla Essence. So this is a fragrance that I absolutely love. So while you have oud and dark chocolate going on in Explicit Vanilla, and those two play a key role, while the vanilla is still the star, here the vanilla is the star, but there is a floral presence to this vanilla that you do not find in the other fragrances that I'm going to discuss with you, because here you find the note of jasmine and violet. The violet gives the dry down a powdery dry down. It's not a little bit powdery. It's not excessively powdery. It is powdery. But at that, the vanilla is the star. From first sniff of the fragrance, you're going to know, oh, this smells so good. You're going to know that this is a vanilla-centric fragrance, and the vanilla here is no joke. But at that floral presence plays a very, very big role in the scent of the fragrance. This is also a very ambery and loaded with vanilla kind of fragrance. Again, this is truly all about the vanilla, followed by the florals on an ambery quality base overall. That is what you're going to get with this one. This is a very easy reach. You don't have to question it. You can use it for any occasion, day or night, all throughout the year. It is one of the most versatile fragrances that you could pick up. But again, as I said in the opening, these four fragrances to me all are quite versatile. So let's continue to talk about them. All right, so this next one is La Vie est Belle Vanille Nude. Now, this is a fragrance that was just launched this year, and you may recall that I picked it up immediately. I actually, of course, have a review of all these fragrances here on the channel if you're interested, but this is a fragrance that was launched, if I recall correctly, more towards the beginning of the spring, and it was perfection for the spring. But the more I use this fragrance, layer with it, and understand it, this fragrance is really like an easy reach, vanilla-centric fragrance. This is a fragrance that you could make your signature scent. You can use it for the office. You can use it to go work out. You can use it for anything, because this is really all about the note of jasmine and a very centric and dominant vanilla note on a base of musk. And the musk here is a level 3 to a level 4, which means you are going to pick up on it, but it's not animalic in any kind of way. But again, this is an exquisite vanilla scent that if you are looking for an easy reach, easy pull kind of vanilla centric fragrance, look no further. This is really, really a very good fragrance, but it differs from the others in that it doesn't have as much of a floral presence as that you find in the Donna Karan fragrance. And for sure, it doesn't have that bit of an edge that dark chocolate and oud bring to the Mancera fragrance. But all in all, they are all easy reach and easy pull fragrances if you're looking for that perfect vanilla. All right, so one of the questions that I have received the most, first it was, Arahi, can you please review the fragrance? Are you planning to review the fragrance? And I did tell you all along that I was going to pick up this next one, which is YSL Libre Vanille Couture. But then after I did my detailed review here on the channel, which I just did, I think it was last week, then the questions that I started to receive was, how does it compare, not to the other flankers, because I did discuss that in the review of this fragrance, but how does it compare to, you know, the other vanillas that we've seen this year? And of course, we were talking about nude vanilla, and we were talking about the Donna Karan one and Explicit vanilla. Well, this one is totally different, because while I told you in the detailed review of this fragrance that to me, it is not needed if you own the original Libre, because to me, they're almost the same. It's just that this one has a bit more vanilla. Well, I will tell you that this one differs quite a bit from the other three that I just discussed with you, and it all resides in the note of lavender. There are some white florals here, and it is really orange blossom. And the fragrance is a tad boozy, which also sets it apart from the others. But all in all, the big difference here is that vanilla almost shares the spotlight with that lavender, which is very much the Libre DNA that we've all come to know and love. So this fragrance is very different. So if you're looking for more of a floral presence, but specifically lavender followed by orange blossom, then this is the fragrance for you. If you're looking for a good, very nicely done vanilla, very versatile fragrance, this is the fragrance for you, as long as you don't own the original Libre, because this is giving me original Libre all the way, just with a little bit more vanilla. And it is definitely a boozy fragrance. You know, it's not much boozy, but it is definitely boozy. So compared to the others, you do have that too. So if you're looking for a very easy reach for you can do anything with this fragrance. You could make it your signature scent. Then this one would be the one for you compared to the other three. So all in all, let us know if you own or if you've tried any of these 4 fragrances, and what has your experience been like? Do you agree with any of what I've said? Do you have anything to add? Just what has been your experience? All right, so this next category is called the Welcome to Fall Ambers, because these 2 next fragrances that I'm going to discuss with you are all about that amber quality that as soon as you sniff it, it like sets you immediately. It puts you in the center of a fall day, of the fall season. Truly, you're almost expecting to see the leaves turn and the foliage to change completely, just, you know, and to feel cooler weather altogether. It's like a sweater kind of vibe fragrance, definitely fall vibes. And the 2 fragrances that I want to discuss with you today are both 2025 launches, and I have received this question about which one should you pick up over and over. So today we are going to have the official discussion that will cover not necessarily a comparison, but just a discussion on what you can expect from each. So we're going to go ahead and discuss Dries Van Noten Havana Gold, and we're going to talk about Ella K Amber K. And these 2 fragrances are both 2025 launches, but let's talk about them in detail. Let's start with Havana Gold. So this fragrance, I think it was a dedicated review. This fragrance to me is a masterpiece. This is very much a unisex fragrance though. If you are not into unisex fragrances, this is not for you. This to me does not lean to the masculine or to the feminine side. This is truly a unisex fragrance. This is a fragrance that has quite a bit of character. It is very, very ambery, no doubt. From the opening, from the first sniff, you're going to know that this is a very ambery fragrance, but you're also going to pick up on notes like star anise and licorice, and there's tobacco here. It is just such a beautifully done fragrance that to me is perfection for the fall season. Midway in the olfactory journey, you're also going to pick up on the note of cinnamon, and it is a very dominant right there midway in the olfactory journey, but at the dry down, the blend is just unbelievable. You're really not going to be able to distinguish much. You are going to know that it is an ambery fragrance, but it's not like, you're just going to be able to sniff one scent, one note or the other. No, the blend is beautiful, but it will give you complete fall ambery vibes. All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about Amber K from Ella K. This fragrance to me is yet another one. For me, it is very hard when I want an ambery fragrance. It is very hard to decide right now which one do I want to pull, because while they do not smell the same, I will tell you that they will fill that gap if you're looking for a very, very, very present, intense, quite a bit of character and oomph kind of ambery scent for the fall, and even of course for the winter. This is a fragrance that has notes like Cuban cigar, it has iris, the dry down is powdery, it has some pink pepper. It is just such a combination of incredible notes, but this scent speaks to me clearly to the fall season. But at that, it is primarily an amber-centric fragrance. What you're going to fall in love with is that while it's an ambery scent, and it's very much unisex, by the way, in my opinion. I don't think that this leans to the feminine or to the masculine side, but between the two, I will tell you that I think Havana Gold is more unisex than this one. Is there space for this one to lean a tad to the feminine side? Maybe, but to me, this is really unisex, and Havana Gold for sure is unisex. So that right there may make you make a decision or not. But at that, it's interesting because this one has such intense notes, because I clearly pick up on that tobacco, and it is like the scent that you get, when you first light a tobacco, it's that scent that you get is what you're going to get here. It's not necessarily that you're going to pick up on tobacco leaf. Oh no, this is about a lit tobacco cigar. That's really what you are going to get here for sure. And in addition to that, you are going to have the note of cocoa, which does play a key role. But at the dry down, it is all about a sweet scent that speaks to that fall feel and vibe completely, while having quite a bit of character. This one also borders on beast. I tell you, there's just so many similarities. Even though the scent is not the same, it may fill that one space in your collection. So do I think that you need both? It depends on if you're looking for specific notes, because the notes are not the same. The scent at the dry down is not the same, but it is very much all about being an ambery fragrance. So this next category, I would like to call the top designers strawberry battle, because we're going to be talking about Burberry Her Elixir and the latest from Miu Miu, which is Miu Teen. So here's the thing about these fragrances. I can't say buy this one over this one. I'm just going to speak to the differences, because I don't even think that they fall within the same scent profile. This one gives me much more gourmand than what I get from Miu Teen. Yes, they both have the note of strawberry, but at that, this one has a lactonic quality that I do not find in Miu Teen. This may be a tad, but this one is full on lactonic to my nose, on paper, and on my skin. But let's talk about Miu Teen first. So Miu Teen is a fragrance that has an exquisite strawberry, real strawberry note. But at that, the fragrance also has quite a bit of vanilla, and it does have a floral presence to it. The florals do play a very secondary role. It's really not about the florals. It's really all about that strawberry. But the strawberry is fresh and juicy. While the strawberry is fresh and juicy, this in no way I would consider a freshie. There is a note of patchouli here that brings a creaminess to that vanilla, making you think for a minute that this could be a tad lactonic or lactonic. And it does have a bit of that quality here and there, but this fragrance is really more about that very true, realistic strawberry note combined with the other notes and a ton of vanilla. That's really what this one is all about. Now, when it comes to Burberry Her Elixir, I know that there's the note of strawberry here and the note of blackberry, and I think that there's other berries here. But those two are definitely ones that you're going to pick up on in the opening of the fragrance. But this to me is really about the strawberry. And at that, it's like a strawberry that for me becomes like a strawberry milkshake, because this fragrance, while they have not disclosed the note of milk or anything like that, I am getting complete lactonic from this fragrance. To me, this is truly like a strawberry milkshake. This to me is very much a gourmand scent, where in Miu Miu Mutine, I do not find that full-on gourmand scent. That one, again, is all about that note of strawberry, which is very juicy, very sweet, very ripe, very fresh, very realistic. Here, the strawberry is juicy, sweet, realistic, but it's not necessarily fresh. I find this fragrance to be dense, and it makes it perfection for the fall season, but I just don't think that there is space for these two fragrances to be considered, not even the same scent profile. So while all the other fragrances that I've discussed and that I'm going to discuss today may have similarities in the scent profile, these are two that I find in completely different spectrums. Let us know if you own both of these fragrances. Have you compared them? What do you think about that? Do you think that they fall within the same scent profile? Again, if you're looking for a very realistic strawberry lactonic scent, then I would say Burberry Her Elixir. If you're looking for more of a fresh spin on that strawberry where it's still very realistic, then I would say Mutine. All right. I have so been looking forward to speaking to this next category, and also to the very last one that comes after this one, but this next one, because I have received so many questions time and time again about these fragrances. We are going to be talking about the I Mean Business vanilla fragrances. So we already covered the I'm Your Best Friend vanillas, you know, the easy pull vanillas. Oh no, now we're going to talk about the I Mean Business vanillas. They did not come to play. They are not playing with you. They are all about being that very, very present, intense, full-on character. Really, most of them are true gourmands in my opinion, but we'll talk more about that. So let's jump right into it, because we are going to be talking about Electimus Vanilla Edesia. We are going to be talking about Navitus Manicasanod, and we are going to be talking about Matière Premier Vanilla Powder. And last but not least, we are going to be discussing Vanny Charnel from Epico. Now you understand why I have been excited, because these are not just any 4 vanilla fragrances. These are really something else. But let's jump right into it. All right, so I want to go ahead and start with Manicasanod, because I haven't talked about this fragrance in a while. So this one, you may recall, was done under the direction of Sharita. You know, she is a fellow content creator. I'm sure you know who Sharita is, but I'll be sure to leave her channel information in the description box, because you need to go check her out if you haven't. But when I tell you, this is incredible. This is such an in-your-face, unapologetic, full-on character vanilla. This is a vanilla that commands attention. When you walk in, they're going to know that you walked in. Before you make it into the room, they're going to know that you're somewhere around there, because this scent is incredible. So let's start by saying that this is a full-on gourmand. This is a fragrance that has notes of like ice cream, vanilla, toffee, and you're going to pick up on all of those notes in the olfactory journey. But what I really love about this fragrance is that even though I'm not one of those that's really into a gourmand that makes me smell like food, this one does give me vibes of different desserts, but I just don't care, because it is that incredible. The vanilla here is just exceptional. This to me is one of the best gourmands out there. And it is a fragrance that as soon as I felt that little, cooler breeze, welcoming the fall, I immediately put it in the front because I really want to get quite a bit of wear out of it because I absolutely love it. But this is the type of vanilla that you want to pick up when you're looking for a true dense, unapologetic, sweet but not sickeningly sweet, vanilla-centric scent that, while delivering all that character and being quite gourmand, also has an air of sophistication to it. That is what you're going to get. So let's talk about the others next. All right, so next, let's just get it out of the way because I just did a dedicated review for Vanilla Powder, but the extrait, and I did a comparison to the original. And today I figured that since I just did a review on the extrait, let me just go ahead and focus on the original because that's the one that I really feel belongs in this group. So this is not your regular vanilla scent. Remember, we are in that category of not your regular vanilla scent. These are not easy pull vanillas. No, these are full force, full effect, full character, level vanillas. Okay, these are not your best friend vanilla. These are not your easy pull used for just about anything vanilla. And Vanilla Powder is no difference. Vanilla Powder is a vanilla centric scent that does speak to a very powdery, not just dry down, but I pick up on the powderiness from first sniff. This is the type of fragrance that you want to pick up, one, if you are a serious vanilla lover, and two, if you're not just looking for a regular vanilla scent. This to me is not a safe blind buy unless you are a very consummate vanilla lover, because this is a fragrance that again has quite a bit of powderiness, and it's not just coming from a note of coconut powder, but it's also the heliotrope, in my opinion, that contributes to that level of powderiness. But at all that, this fragrance is all about the note of vanilla. But there is such a different character to the fragrance. It is also a tad lactonic, not very lactonic, not full-on lactonic, but it is a tad lactonic, so you are going to pick up on that. This is a fragrance that you could make your signature scent. You could use it for anything that you want. It's just not, in my opinion, an easy pull. And it is certainly not a fragrance that I recommend that you use during a very, very hot summer day or for occasions where you know you're going to perspire, because it may be a bit much. Okay, so the next fragrance that we're going to discuss within the I mean business vanillas, and this one did not come to play whatsoever. This one is from Electimus, and this is Vanilla Edesia. Now let me tell you what this is. This is a vanilla and spices bomb. This is your quintessential spicy vanilla-centric fragrance. The level of spiciness in this fragrance competes with the level of vanilla that you pick up in this fragrance. It's almost like in no moment, from first sniff all through the olfactory journey and throughout the wear of the fragrance, you're going to pick up on that vanilla, but it is spiced to the nth degree. But even though the vanilla has been spiced with like cumin and coriander and cinnamon, if I recall correctly, and frankincense, there's a ton of spices here, okay? But this is not gourmandish in any way. This is a very elegant and sophisticated kind of fragrance that gives me no gourmandish vibes, but it is truly a very spicy, vanilla-centric scent for sure. This is also very much a unisex fragrance. To me, it doesn't lean to the masculine or to the feminine side. You know, some may argue that it leans a tad to the masculine, but I am telling you, to me, this is completely unisex. What I will also tell you is that it's very, very addictive. Let us know if you've tried Vanilla Edesia, because this is one that I don't hear much talk about, and I wonder why, because this is incredible. All right, so this next fragrance will definitely fall into the category of full-on gourmand. This one, let's talk more about it. So this one is from Epico, and this is Vanny Charnel. This is absolutely yummy. You are going to absolutely love this fragrance. There are some fruity notes here, some candy notes. There's a ton of vanilla. This is very much a vanilla-centric fragrance. If I recall correctly, there's some caramel. It is just incredible. And it does have a floral presence, but the florals do not play a key role whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the florals at the dry down don't even appear on my skin. They do appear through the olfactory journey, but faint in the background because, again, it is not about the florals whatsoever. It's really about that vanilla. And it is truly like a dessert vanilla, like a vanilla, like a vanilla custard. Oh, with like a caramel top. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So all in all, these 4 fragrances are really heavy hitting, perfect for fall and winter. They really all are. But in case you're wondering, do I buy this one or do I buy that one, or do I try this one or do I try that one? I hope that, the details that I provided today help clear it up for you, because they truly are 4 fragrances that are really, really worth it. If you're looking for more of a true gourmand aspect, then you really want to consider Manny Cassonade, or you want to consider Vanny Charnel. And if you're just looking for a complete spin on the spicy side of a very, very spicy, warm, spicy, vanilla-centric fragrance, then you want to try Vanilla Edesia for sure. And last but not least, if you are looking for that very uncommon vanilla-centric scent with that bit of coconut powder on a very, very powdery dry down, then Vanilla Powder is the one for you. Let us know if you own or you've tried any of those 4 fragrances, as I know many of you did pick up Vanny Charnel and for sure Manny Cassonade. So the next category and the last one that I have for you today is under Boozy and Fabulous, because these 3 fragrances are truly boozy fragrances, but you're going to smell fabulous. And the first one is, of course, how could we have this discussion without bringing up Kilian's Angel Share? And I decided to pull the original and not Paradise, just because, the original has the DNA that we've all, that we're all familiar with and that we, for the most part, all appreciate. And Paradise just adds that note of raspberry. And of course, then we're going to talk about Xerjoff Tony Iommi Monkey Special, and we will end with El Padrino, which is one of the latest releases from Sospiro. So let's go ahead and start with Il Padrino. So Il Padrino is definitely a boozy scent. And here you are going to find several several notes. I think it's rum and amaretto, if I recall correctly, but you're definitely going to have a boozy scent. And you also have some blackcurrant in the opening. There's other fruity notes that I pick up on. I can't remember them all. But the opening, although it is quite boozy, it immediately sets the tone for being a boozy scent. It is also a bit airy. It is a very ambery fragrance that also has a bit of vanilla. I don't pick up much on the vanilla. To me, this is more about that booziness with some woodiness with some woody notes at the dry down. But all in all, this is really an incredible boozy fragrance. But let's see, what does this one bring to the table that the others don't? So specifically, this fragrance is, again, as I said, very ambery, but there is an inherent creaminess to it that I think is a combination of like the sandalwood and the patchouli. The patchouli is present, but it's done very smoothly and it's not earthy in any kind of way. So now let's talk about Angel Share from Kilian. So this is a fragrance that is also very, very boozy. But the thing about this one is that this one gives me full-on gourmand. While Il Padrino is not the type of fragrance that you want to pick up if you're looking for a gourmand or even gourmandish boozy scent, that is not the fragrance for that, because the one that is really going to give you that full-on gourmand quality is Angel Share. Here, you are going to find some woody notes. You are going to find, of course, some notes that I think it's cognac, if I recall correctly. And you are going to find quite a bit of woodiness. It is all about those woody notes, the vanilla, some spicy notes where cinnamon comes across immediately. You're not going to miss on that one. But all in all, to me, this is a scent of like, I don't know, like a boozy apple crumb or like an apple pie kind of scent. I can't explain it, but this to me is full-on gourmand and very, very yummy, while also being a fabulous boozy scent. So last, let's talk about Xerjoff's Tony Iommi Monkey Special. This is a very, very boozy and very much unisex scent. where you are going to find some fruity notes. There's a very present note of, if I recall correctly, passion fruit. And you are going to have those fruity notes. You're going to have some woody notes. There's vanilla. And I think that the booziness is coming, if I recall correctly, from the note of rum. But this is definitely a very unisex scent that is also very, very boozy. It does incorporate like gourmand notes here and there, like vanilla and caramel, but I do not find this scent to be truly gourmandish whatsoever. To me, if you're looking for a real gourmand that is also boozy, Angel Share is the best one to date. Angel Share in any of its variations. I have not tried Angel Share on the rocks, but I am looking forward to trying that one. I've heard so many great things about it, but this is definitely an incredibly beautiful boozy gourmand. Now, if you're looking for more of a fruity floral presence while also being very much a unisex fragrance with quite a bit of woodiness to it also, then Tony Iommi Monkey Special is the one for you. And if you're also looking for one that is in between those two, while not being gourmand or gourmandish, it's also not as intense and unisex as what you find in Tony Iommi Monkey Special, then you definitely want to try Il Padrino. This is an incredible fragrance. Of the three, I have to tell you, I will always love Angel Share, but Il Padrino is really, really special. Maybe it's because I've just had the opportunity to use it this year because it is a 2025 launch and the others are not. But I have to tell you, this is really, really special. So all in all, let us know if you've tried or if you own any of these three boozy and fabulous scents, and what are your thoughts about them? All right, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I just wanted to come on here and of course discuss all of these fragrances because there's been so many new launches, and you may be wondering, okay, do I have something in my collection already? Do I really need to pick up that new one or try or add it to my wish list? And we can't be picking up everything. So I figured that I would come on here, number one, answer some of the questions that you've had for me through time, and number two, give you some idea of what you're going to get from each fragrance within each grouping. I hope that this was enjoyable for you. If you have any additional questions, you know where to find me. As always, thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.